Today's case doesn't begin with yelling. It begins with a quiet sentence that almost didn't get said, a sentence that was rehearsed in someone's head for weeks, then swallowed, then rewritten, then nearly abandoned again. A sentence that sounded reasonable, polite, even careful. And yet, once it finally left her mouth, everything around her shifted. Because in this case, setting a boundary didn't end the conflict. It exposed it. And once exposed, nothing went back the way it was before. She had been in the relationship just over 3 years. Long enough for routines to settle in, long enough for expectations to blur. They didn't live together, but they spent most nights at each other's places. Weekdays were predictable. Weekends were shared. They shared grocery lists, streaming accounts, inside jokes that had outlived their original context. From the outside, nothing appeared wrong. Friends described them as steady, not dramatic, not messy, just consistent. But consistency can hide imbalance when it lasts long enough. She worked early mornings, he worked late evenings, so when she woke up, she tiptoed around his sleep. When he came home, she adjusted her evenings. At first, it felt mutual. Then it became expected. When plans changed, they changed on her side. When space was needed, it was usually hers that shrank. Not because he demanded it, because she offered it, repeatedly, until offering became habit, and habit became silence. The first almost moment came during a small disagreement about weekends. She had mentioned wanting one Saturday a month to herself. No plans, no obligations, just a reset. He laughed it off, not unkindly, just surprised. He said, "But weekends are our thing." She nodded. The moment passed. She almost corrected him. She almost explained that wanting space didn't mean wanting distance, but the tone shifted, so she let it go. The second almost moment came when he began dropping by unannounced. Not every time, just enough. He said it was because he missed her, because he was nearby, because it felt natural. She smiled. She unlocked the door. She didn't say that sometimes she needed warning. The third almost moment came when she stopped seeing friends without including him. Not because he asked, because it was easier, because explaining felt heavier than adjusting. She noticed the pattern. She noticed herself shrinking. But each moment felt too small to address alone. So they stacked, quietly. The turning point didn't arrive as an argument. It arrived as exhaustion. One evening after a long workday, she asked for a night alone. Just one night. No explanation, no apology. He paused, then asked if something was wrong. She said no. He asked if she was upset. She said no. He asked if he had done something. She said no. And then he said something small, something casual. He said, "It just feels like you're pushing me away." That sentence landed harder than she expected, because it placed responsibility back on her again. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She simply felt something settle, not anger, clarity. And clarity doesn't announce itself loudly. It just refuses to disappear. When the story was first shared, early reactions were split. Some readers focused on tone. One comment read, "Nobody is wrong yet." This sounds like two people with different needs who haven't communicated clearly. Another said, "I don't hear control here. I hear insecurity that hasn't been addressed." A third added, "Boundaries aren't ultimatums, but they also aren't optional. This feels like a crossroads." The jury wasn't convinced of harm. But they weren't convinced of innocence either. After that night, she began preparing what she wanted to say. Not a confrontation, a clarification. She rehearsed it during commutes, in the shower, before sleep. She wanted to say that she needed more autonomy, that unannounced visits made her anxious. That shared routines didn't mean shared ownership of time. When she finally said it, her voice stayed calm, measured. She framed it carefully. She emphasized that it wasn't about him. She said she loved the relationship. She said she just needed clearer boundaries. He listened. He didn't interrupt, but his silence stretched. Then he asked questions. Why now? Why hadn't she said this earlier? Did she regret the relationship? Each question carried weight. None were hostile, but all implied something deeper. The mood shifted. Again. The second wave of Reddit responses grew sharper. One user wrote, "This is where boundaries get tested. If someone reacts emotionally to reasonable limits, that's information." Another countered, "Timing matters. Dropping boundaries after years can feel like a rewrite of the rules." A third observed, "He's not attacking her, but he's centering his feelings instead of listening." The court was divided, but attention had shifted from intent to impact. In internet court, jurors don't just weigh morality, they weigh precedent. In relationships, precedent is powerful. Years of unspoken allowances can feel like contracts, but legally and emotionally, consent given without clarity can be revoked. The jurors debated, is it fair to set boundaries late? Is silence a form of agreement? Does emotional discomfort invalidate a boundary? One juror argued that relationships evolve. Another argued that sudden change destabilizes trust. Emotion clashed with principle. No clear verdict emerged, only tension. The court then considered alternatives. What if she had spoken earlier? What if he had asked instead of assumed? What if both had defined expectations from the start? What if this boundary had been framed as temporary instead of permanent? Each scenario suggested a different outcome. None guaranteed safety, only difference. After the conversation, things didn't explode. They cooled. Texts became shorter. Visits became scheduled. The relationship continued, but something fundamental had changed, not broken, revealed. She noticed herself standing firmer. He noticed the distance. Neither knew if it was repairable, only that it was real. So internet court now turns to you. Was this boundary overdue or destabilizing? Was the discomfort necessary or avoidable? And when silence lasts long enough, does it become consent or pressure? The court does not rule today, because some verdicts can only be delivered by time. Court is adjourned. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. It's always appreciated.